Administrative Committee of the Dunn County Supervisors, Wednesday, April 12th, 3 o'clock, room 54. First order of business is call the roll.
We are all here now.
We are all here and accounted for. That's good. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes from the February 8th, 2023 meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve. What's the board's pleasure? Supervisor Vaughn makes a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Supervisor McCulloch seconds. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public comments? I know of none. So we have no public comments. The next order of business is the report of the county manager. Ms. Corpula, would you take it away?
I would, however, I'm going to immediately turn it over to Mr. Lang, who will give you the update on dark store legislation loophole. It is.
Okay. Back in 2006, so this is just a little update on what's going on something that the County Board of Supervisors here adopted a resolution urging the state legislature to take some action. They haven't, but the Supreme Court has. There's this thing called the dark store tax loophole, where big box stores, part of the formula for determining value for tax purposes is to compare to other buildings, other store buildings in the area. And the way the statute is written, the loophole is that big box stores were very often contesting the valuation and trying to incorporate stores in the area that were closed, defunct businesses. So if you've got a large building sitting completely vacant with nothing going on, its market value is considerably different. And so companies were heavily employing that as a method of determining value, which ultimately placed a greater burden on homeowners because they would very often prevail in their case to appeal. So the dark store loophole was there. Back in 2017, Dunn County passed a resolution. I think in 2016 and 2017, most counties and towns and cities passed resolutions urging the legislature to fix that. And there were some attempts, but there was never enough support in either the Senate or the Assembly to get something for any of our governors to sign. Just recently, within the past month or so, the Wisconsin Supreme Court issued a decision in the case, and it wasn't a perfect fix. It wasn't everything that counties were looking for, but it did plug a lot of the loophole that taxing authorities were concerned about, because it didn't close it completely, but it did the finding of the court, or the holding of the court, did create a rule that prohibits the consulting or referring to closed dark stores as a reference in every instance. So there are other criterion that can be utilized by tax assessors and so forth. And when those provide a fair value then it's no longer necessary or even permitted to go right to the dark store to try to find value. And as a result of that, I think we'll see, some of these large businesses. I don't know if Dunn County necessarily has too many. I don't think there are any closed ones. But I think, that'll result in some relief for homeowners in the tax burden that they're keeping up. Where the stores are getting out of paying a fair share. So anyway, it's just an update to let you know what's going on. The legislature didn't do what we asked them to do, but the Supreme Court did. And so it's a good step.
Any questions? Okay, I wanted to give you just a brief review of, I did attend the Joint Finance Committee public hearing yesterday afternoon or yesterday day, all day. So I knew you have to get there early. It starts at 10 o'clock and I knew I should be there by 8, but actually I was should have been there by 6 because people were lining up to speak by 6 a.m. So I got there about 8:30 and I spoke at 3:45 in the afternoon. So it was a long day of sitting there, but I took took a piece out of what we shared with the legislators with regard to property or levy limits, and then state aids, used some of that state aids data that we had gotten recently. So there were probably, I don't know what their final number was, but I would say 200 to 250 people who spoke. Lots of higher ed lobbying for or advocating for building projects. Heritage Hall on the Stout campus, science building at Eau Claire were 2 of them I know. Quite a bit of education in general. Firefighters who are dealing with all of the issues, more firefighters / EMS because of the issues with regard to staffing and having enough people to do emergency services in smaller communities or rural communities. A lot of people spoke to the issues regarding childcare, apparently, since COVID, there's been a special pot of funding to raise the rate that childcare providers are paid. Not just childcare providers, caregivers in general. And that's coming to a cliff. And so one woman who owned a daycare center said that her staff prior to the money made about $9 and some cents an hour. And with the extra money, they made like $14 or $15 an hour, I want to say. Anyway, she said if she were going to sustain their wages at the level after the funding ended, she would need to raise the rate she said right now, a family with 2 children in childcare would pay $1,600 and some dollars per month. And if she had to keep the wages going, it would go to like $2,200 something a month. So it'd be a pretty significant increase. But there were a few municipalities who spoke to funding and levy limits, shared revenues, state aids, kinds of things. But as has been my experience in the past when I was in a different capacity, counties are kind of not very proactive about being there and speaking. And so I'm going to try to kind of flag it in the back of my brain for the future and try to just get some interest in and going. It is a long day, but it is a very interesting day. And I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but what I would say what I think makes a difference is when you're sitting there and you hear all of these people who took time out of their day to come and speak, and then there wasn't that representation on the county level or even the municipality level for that matter, just a small amount. So I think it's a worthwhile thing for us to keep on our radar. It happens every 2 years before the biennial budget, so it won't happen again next year, but it'll happen the following year. So that was that day, and there were still probably 75 people there after I left that had yet to testify. So it's a lot. I'm sure that they put in a long day.
If I might, it definitely matters. My community is pretty heavy in higher ed, and I noticed a number of folks at Stout and some school board people were very, very happy to see you there. I caught that wave, and I'm very happy you were there, and I got kudos for you being there. And they belong to you, not to me. So
You just take them. They're good. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good. That's all that I have, except that I see that since you're going to be doing performance evaluation this afternoon, please take note of the fact that I apparently can't add and I can't number an agenda because the next agenda item is consideration of actions and it should have had its own number, not be number A, but I don't think that that's a fatal flaw. So.
It's a template problem. I think it's a operator error.
So do you want to address that, this number 5A, consideration of actions to be taken by the legislative committee resolution real estate transfer fee? Someone want,
That,
That comes out of
Mr.
PR&D, right? Correct? Yep. Yep.
Heather's here.
Oh, and Heather's here. I think that Heather Tom, would you wish to speak or Heather?
We will now receive information from Heather.
Okay, good afternoon. This resolution is to request the state to revise the current real estate transfer fee revenue sharing formula. So currently the split is 80-20 with 80% of the fees being remitted to the state. And this request is to change it to a 50-50 split between county and state. It's not a fee increase. It only changes the split between the county and state. At last count, there were 28 counties that had passed resolutions, similar resolutions in support of this. And this request is also on the radar of the Wisconsin Counties Association and included in their legislative agenda. The 2020 and 2021 real estate markets were crazy. So the property values were at an all-time high, and that resulted in much higher transfer fees collected. And so if we look back at the last 6 years, if the split would have been 50-50, the county would have retained just over $1 million. So that's a substantial amount. But again, 2020 and 2021 were with the high property values, also that makes a big difference. But yeah, so is there any questions?
Do you want to speak a bit to the history, Heather, that it hasn't always been this way?
Sure. So, it was enacted in 1969 that we started collecting a transfer fee. And at that point it was a 50-50 split, but we were collecting $1 per thousand in real estate value. So it was, if the sale price, so $1 per thousand. So then in 1981, it changed and it was increased at $3 per thousand based on the real estate value. And the split went to 80-20 at that time in 1981. So it's been since 1981 since there's been any changes. So.
Thank you, Heather. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Supervisor Rogers.
It's my understanding that it goes into the general fund. I don't, that's my understanding is where the fees go.
Any other supervisor have a question to Heather? Thank you, Heather. Oh, excuse me. Oh, John, go ahead.
Thank you,
Supervisor
Mr. Chairman.
Calabrese.
Do you know if other counties are doing similar requests?
Yep. So at last count, I think there was 28 counties that had passed similar resolutions.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions of Heather? Hearing none, I might add at the Wisconsin Counties Association meeting that I attended, this was a topic of discussion. And hopefully we can move it forward and have some impact here. So I would entertain a motion. Supervisor,
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Quinn moves, Supervisor Morehouse seconds. Does everybody understand what we're voting on here? Trying to get our money back to where it was? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Heather. See here. I would like to take this time to give a brief report on my Wisconsin County Association meeting. It was held March 24th in Wausau, Wisconsin. Our agenda was as follows. Well, call to order, roll call, pledge of allegiance, welcome by the Marathon County Board Chair, because that's the county it was held in. Installation of board members, approval of the minutes, report of the chair, report of the president, legislative update from Kyle Christensen, our lobbyist. And there's a lot of talk. Governor Evers says we have 7 million, and the Republican or the legislature says we have 1.5. Now, what Kyle thinks that the real number that we'll be dealing with, or the state will be dealing with, is about 2.5 billion. So that was interesting. They went through the governor's budget. Our budget committee had made recommendations, and we went through every section of the governor's budget, and it was all either approved or wanted to amend to achieve some other means. So we passed that, approved it, and of course, the general feeling was that the legislature will throw that out and start over. So we'll be lobbying for the legislators' budget when we see what that is. Secondly, Kelly McCullough was appointed to the resolutions committee. So I'd like to congratulate Kelly on that. And thank you for sending me. It's always good to see other counties. It's a broadening experience. You get to see what their problems are. And I hope everybody got I sent out a thing on from Forward Analytics. They had a real nice presentation on the opioid crisis, and really what's even taken off worse is the fentanyl crisis. So I'd have to ask Nick on our opioid agreement, does fentanyl fit in there?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I can't recall.
It's becoming and if you read that report, it's just shocking how it's taking off. And any exposure to that, and we had, I think it was Wood County reported that they had 2 deputies that were out, and they opened a bag, and the fentanyl can kill you. And one deputy was, a good thing another deputy was there, saved his life. I think it's Kenosha or Racine County. There's a machine you can buy for $18,000 that tells you what's in the bag without opening it. Very expensive. So the counties association discussed perhaps being able to buy those on as a consortium or as a group to get reduced. And I had no idea that fentanyl was that potent. So I would urge you to read that Forward Analytics thing. It's quite scary. It breaks down it breaks down the state, shows you how many deaths in each county are connected to fentanyl, and it's a kind of a sobering situation. And once again, thank you for sending me. Next order of business is, unless there's anybody have any business they want to bring up. Hearing none. The next meeting, May 10th, 2023 at 3 o'clock. Does that work for everybody? I hope. So that's what it'll be, May 10th, 2023 at 3 p.m. We've concluded our business. We are adjourned. Please feel free to mill around.